The whole city is buzzing about the Red Sox, but for the Latino community, there's an added layer of pride. Plus, as Boston Mayor Tom Menino prepares for his City Hall curtain call, we look at whether he's playing any kind of a behind-the-scenes role in the race to replace him. And system failure.
Access to healthcare.gov has been a miserably frustrating experience for way too many Americans.
Internet experts explain what went so terribly wrong. Now on Greater Boston. Good evening. We're living in a very exciting moment in Boston history. On Tuesday, voters will pick their first new mayor in 20 years, and we just might usher in that new era with another championship under our belts. I don't want to jinx it, but a win tonight or tomorrow would mark the first time in 95 years the Red Sox have clinched the World Series at Fenway Park. And while most Bostonians are rightfully proud of the Sox success, one player in particular is pumping up the team and his community. WGBH News reporter Gail Huff has more.
On the field, he's Big Papi, the Grand Slam hitter, hero to Red Sox fans. But in Boston's Jamaica-Plain neighborhood, well, he's just one of them.
There are times that he could be full of himself, and we all know that. But he does a lot for from what I see, from what I hear from people, he does a lot for his people.
He eats in the local restaurants. He signs autographs for the kids and travels Center Street without an entourage. Of course, everyone knows he visits the local barber shops.
You can see him on High Square, getting his lineup. He used to go to Fernandez, and now I think it's called Bacano Barbershop, something like that.
Those who are from the Dominican Republic can hardly contain their excitement over how proud he's made them.
Oh, the Ortiz, number one. That's number one.
Big Papi has been a hero during this series. Who can forget that Sunday he provided the game-tying slam in the eighth that brought the Sox to victory. And he knows how to pull this team together. Taking in the game tonight at Fenway will cost more than $1,000 if you can score a ticket. But Ortiz's proud fans from Jamaica Plain will be watching on TV, and they'll have a lot of company in the Dominican Republic.
My family, they're going to see the game, and they always trying to say, we win. Like Boston says number one.
In Jamaica Plain, Gail Huff, WGBH News.
My first guest is heading straight from here to Fenway. Alberto Vasallo is the editor of the Latino newspaper El Mundo and also happens to be a big personal friend of Big Papi. And welcome to you, Alberto.
Oh, let's get this over with. I got to go.
I know. I'm going too. I got to. But it's, you're working, I'm working. It's not as much fun when you got to work
yeah.
it. But listen, you don't have a lock on this, all right? The Dominicans, is there anybody, I've said this for 10 years, would you rather have on your team than Big Papi?
Oh, absolutely. And he's setting all kinds of records. He's hitting, entering today over 700 in the postseason. And we got to remember another thing, too, that I haven't heard anybody talk about this. But, here in Boston sports history, we've got, Larry Bird won 3 championships. Tom Brady, 3 Super Bowls. If Big Papi if we win tonight, he's the only member of the other teams. 3 World Series. Mm-hmm. So he's up in that rare air of Boston sports heroes if they win tonight, 3 championships.
What is it about the Dominican? I know they focus, and I've seen the programs about the youth baseball and everything, but is there something else to it, the nice weather year-round? What is it that creates these great players?
Well, yeah, it's a combination of all those stuff. Obviously, that's, we call it our national pastime here. Over there, it's more than that. It's a gateway for a better future for a lot of these kids. So, here in the U.S., we've got all 4 sports. We've got football, we've got basketball, we've got baseball. Over there, it's just one. It's baseball, and it's played all year long. Their national heroes are all baseball players because they've kind of elevated that country to an international status and level. So it's much more than that. And, of course, they just play it all year long in baseball fields that are so bad that when they come to, these really beautifully manicured fields in the minor leagues or major leagues here, it's easy for them because the conditions they play with are much more difficult.
There's always been a little bit of mystery surrounding Big Papi's age. Do we really know how old he is? He says he's 37, but...
Oh, yeah, no, you know what? That started with Louis Tiant. You remember Louis?
No, I do remember Louis.
And his age. So a lot of those guys, but not so much with him. I think he really is that age. He's playing like he's 27, so
he is.
He's looking great.
Speaking of Louis Tiant, He's throwing out the first ball tonight.
Yeah,
pitch.
Carlton Fisk.
And Carlton Fisk.
Carlton Fisk, yeah. Louis was my first interview. I was 13 years old. He played baseball in Cuba with my dad. So it's special for me.
His dad was a Cuban ball player.
Oh, yeah, lefty pitcher who played. He never got to play in the big leagues because it was before the breaking of the color barrier. But yeah, I mean, Louis is another guy who kind of started this whole cultural, kind of revolution here in Boston through the sports figures.
Yeah, everybody remembers him. He was like 71 to 78. I mean, he had a good stretch here.
Oh, yeah. 75 World Series that's why he's throwing out the first pitch. His dad, Castro, gave him a special permission for his father to come over and watch him pitch, and his mom, and they died here in Boston. They're buried in Milton. They died 11 days apart. So Louis kind of started this. And then we can't forget Pedro.
No, I was about to mention him. I said he became the most beloved figure here. And he's back, he's got a capacity role with the Red Sox, and he lives here. He said he always wanted to come back, and now he's here. Yeah,
he's an amazing story because I was born in Boston City Hospital. Okay, my whole life raised here, right? So I grew up in that area where East Boston was Italian, South Boston was primarily Irish Catholic, North End was Italian, so it wasn't as mixed as it was today. I remember seeing for the first time in about 98, 99, the first time in South Boston, a little blue-eyed blonde kid with a Red Sox shirt with the last name Martinez, such a Latino last name. That's when I knew Boston had started this turnaround of it doesn't really matter where you're from, what color skin you are. That had started to change here in Boston.
All right, they got this good young pitcher for St. Louis tonight, but still, whenever Big Papi comes up to the at bat, you have this feeling of calm come over you, right? You're convinced he's going to do it again.
Yeah. It's incredible. He said he was the guy who said sometimes he gets full of himself. I think he's referring to that one thing because lately he's been saying, I've been born to do this. He's been telling the fans and the media that this is what I play for. So I think it's just self-confidence. But he's never been a cocky guy. He's always
he has to travel with an entourage sometimes. I've seen him with an entourage, but otherwise he'd be besieged by people. He has to be.
Yeah, but he's one of the most, of all the Latino ball players that I've really gotten to know, he's probably the humblest in that sense. Pedro was a little bit of a diva, and I love Pedro. Canseco was, he thought he was out of this world. But, when you get to see him personally, I mean, he is a great human being, Big Papi. He does a lot in the Latino community.
And for charity in general.
Absolutely.
All right. Get going.
All right, I got to go.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, pro baseball players live a life on the road, but the Red Sox played 90 games away this season, and for many players, even home games are far away from home. Last season, WGBH's Neighborhood Kitchens introduced us to a local restaurateur who delivers the taste of home cooking right to the ballpark.
Diners on a pilgrimage to find the best Latin cuisine usually end up at the tables of Hector Piña and his wife, Nidia. They opened Merengue in 1994 to celebrate the flavors of the Caribbean. Their menu features plantains, rice and beans, yuca, tangy sauces, and lots of fish.
I wanted Merengue to have those flavors from the grandmother. So we kept all the natural flavors. Sofrito, oregano, Dominican oregano, cilantro. So people, once they taste it, they can go back in time. Instead of feeling that they are eating in a restaurant, I want them to feel that they eating, with what mom just cooked.
On Red Sox game days, Piña delivers food to the Dominican players, and they're always hungry for a taste of home.
So we cater Fenway Park in most of the games, especially to the visitors team. I don't think there's any team that doesn't have at least 2 or 3, players, Latino players, mostly Dominican, Venezuelans, and Puerto Ricans. So it's nice for them to come to the city and find Latin food in the clubhouse.
Pedro Martinez, Big Papi, Manny Ramirez. The arrival of Dominican superstars at Fenway drew a new wave of Latino fans to the country's oldest major league ballpark and sparked an interest in Dominican food and culture.
I love baseball, so when I used to go to Fenway Park before Pedro, I took my Dominican flag, to show it when a Dominican player from other team was, batting and that, and people complain. Oh, what are you doing with this? I want to watch the game. Pedro came. Pedro became what Pedro was, and the Dominican flag, I saw them sell it at the park. And it was really, rewarding. And I believe people in Boston knows a little bit more about Dominican after, Pedro, Manny, and David came here and have done such a, marvelous job with the Boston Red Sox. I think they put a mark in the history of the city.